Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I'd really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. I am in love with this generation of Zenith Chronomaster, and today I am sharing with you my latest flame. This is the Zenith Chronomaster XXT Open Grande Moon and Sunphase, the most dynamic moon phase watch you will ever encounter with the signature open escapement of this generation of Chronomaster. I always like to say 10% of the cost of a tourbillon, but 90% of the technical fascination and visual spectacle. The watch is 45 millimeters, but it doesn't wear that way. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, this is a timepiece that sits easily. It has a broad spacing between the lugs of 22 millimeters, so it has a modern stance or footing on the wrist, and it's 16.4 millimeters thick, which is chunky, but because of that dramatic double drawn bezel, a cuff can easily slide up over its side. And I promised you a watch that's big but wearable on a small wrist. At 53.4 millimeters with short and tightly downturned lugs, I can endorse this watch likely for a wrist as small as 14.5 centimeters circumference. I think you could pull this watch off. Now, the timepiece has a wonderful form about its case and a deluxe strap befitting a flagship model. Large rectangular scale alligator leather, and as you can see, gloss finish, dramatically bolstered and substantial, with a narrow sheer edge so you can actually see the construction, monotone stitch, calfskin on the underside, and a full deployant clasp. An impressive piece, double deployant. You can see how much material was used. This isn't spindly and spidery. Back then, Zenith spent real money on accessories like clasps, and you can see internally fully finished. The double deployant is preferable for a small wrist because it doesn't have the one big up and over fold that can pinch your wrist. 22 millimeters the spacing between the lugs, and you can see that broad footing of which I spoke. The lugs are Baroque, fluted. They match the style of the bezel, and you can see they actually ride up over the edge of the bezel, with the bezel set almost like a diamond in a ring. It's a handsome effect, and one that also allows the watch to be a bit slimmer since the bezel can slide down below the peak of the lug. The caseband is strong. It's all of high polish, and it's the interaction of the mid case and the bezel that gives the watch its horizontal definition. Lozenge style pushers and a dramatically domed cambered sapphire. Remember, flat sapphires are cheap, cambered sapphires are expensive. Pennies were not pinched in the production of this watch. Now let's talk about the dial side. Okay, a lot going on here. Let's explore the geography of this Chronomaster. First things first, you're looking at blackened indices and blackened stylized Roman numerals outboard. Blackened and faceted, half-frosted Dauphine hands at center. Let's start up the chronograph. You have apertures for, respectively, the escapement, the Grande and chronograph minutes, and the moon phase, sun phase. Well, what does that mean? Well, it quite literally means there is a moon phase with a 29.5 day cycle and an AM/PM superimposed on one dial. So you actually have, that's the quickset for the date. It's an El Primero, so that's the quickset date function, and you actually set the time on an El Primero in what would normally be the date setting position of most watches. As I move the watch, you can see that there is a sapphire disc featuring day and night, so though the moon phase doesn't change dramatically, it's superimposed over an AM/PM. Let me see how close I can get to show you this to good effect, but it's superimposed over an AM/PM that turns the romantic but static moon phase complication into a more dynamic moon phase and artfully rendered AM/PM indicator. Now, that explained, you can also see that there is a Grande date, a double-digit, double-disc date that is roughly at 130, and it has a quickset function. It also sits on top of a perlage engine-turned baseplate, and there's a smoked sapphire between us and that base plate that creates that gray color you see. Now let's get close to the open escapement. This is caliber 4047. The open escapement features reprofiled bridges for the drivetrain, and you can see the extended pinion of the fourth wheel drives a tri-spoke constant seconds, and then from the fourth wheel you have the escape wheel, the anchor, the balance, the regulator, the hairspring, and all of this is seen through engine-turned and skeletonized bridges. That was the innovation of Terry Nataf, the Zenith CEO, president, and chief designer. He wore many hats during the 2000s. He said, open up the escapement and let me see it from the dial side, and he was right. It is bewitching, and it's one of the features that he pioneered, kept not just by Zenith, but by the entire industry, which robbed that style blind. Automatic winding, 50 to 52 hour power reserve, 32 joule, Zenith El Primero, column wheel lateral clutch automatic chronograph, and a good looking one. The balance beats away at 36,000 vibrations per hour. You can see some of Zenith's quirky finishing traits. They use a combination of blued and polished screws, and they generally engine turn their bridges rather than applying Côte de Genève. You can also see the engine turning on the sandwich click wheel for the winding system. It's an El Primero, which means it winds bidirectionally, and you can see that the watch featuring a column wheel, which is blued, and you can enjoy it interacting with its levers and horns, and the lateral clutch moving away from it and into contact with the center wheel. Reset everything, and you can see the recentering hammers falling on the heart cams at center. 30 meters water resistant, beautiful, and one of the most visually intriguing automatic chronograph movements. Many of them have very little to show. The El Primero has a lot on display, and it's nicely executed. These watches are rare, briefly cataloged, but eternally memorable. You can see and own this rarity and a beautiful anachronism from a Grande era of Zenith opulence, the Chronomaster XXT Open Moonphase Sunphase on the watch box.